Deerick Beeler, Deerick Beeler, outdoor.
I want to welcome everybody into the broadcast today, Deerick Beeler Outdoors radio show. Hope all the outdoors men and women out there are enjoying this summer, this little bit of a cool-off we've been having actually here in East Tennessee. And I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Dave Maggard. How's it going, Dave?
Oh, as Lardo would say, it's going uncommonly well.
Uncommonly well, that it is.
Yeah, we've got a little cooler weather up here in Kentucky, and everything is looking just peachy.
That is great. That is great. Our guest today, Mr. James Davy Clark, Certified Whitetail Manager. How are you today, James?
Well, that sounds like an all-important title, Deerick and Dave. I'm sure proud to be with y'all today.
We're definitely tickled to have you.
The Certified Whitetail Manager, actually, I'm kind of a hybrid in this business. I'm not a biologist. Actually, I'm a ruminant nutritionist. I went back and picked up a certification in whitetail management at Oklahoma State University some years ago and added it to my portfolio of ruminating animals that I manage actively. So kind of puts me in a different spot. I'm not a biologist, but I'm task specific to whitetail deer. Let me put it that way.
Right. I totally understand that. And let me ask you, a lot of landowners are deer hunters, myself included. What does the average landowner deer hunter need to know about whitetail management?
The average start from the ground up, which doesn't mean that discard everything you know. Try to look at it systematically in what we call limiting factors. We manage all livestock, including white-tailed deer, by a set of limiting factors. In other words, what am I limited by? Look on the ground and see what you have there first. The four basic limiting factors are food quantity, food quality, water, and interspersion. To sum it all up, if you find a place on your property that has all of those factors on it, that's the place you want to start. That's your home range right there. And
right.
Say if you had 600 acres, rather than just throw something against the wall, see what sticks, you want to look at what fits those primary factors and go from the ground up.
Right.
And that's pretty much how you get started right there. Food quantity, food quality, water, and biodiversity and interspersion. The whitetail diet has been studied extensively, as you well know.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's found there are over 600 different plants they will eat, with all varying levels of protein and energy, secondary plant chemicals. One interesting part, biologically speaking, white-tailed deer have no gallbladder attached to their liver, which means they're out there eating a lot of things that would be toxic to other animals or human beings, things like poison ivy, sumac, giant ragweed, common ragweed, beggar's lice, stickums, whatever name you want to put on them. You know what I'm talking about, milk thistle.
Yeah, they can just take it. Yeah, they can just eat it.
They'll just eat it. Broadleaf weeds are basically classified under the umbrella of a forb, as the F-O-R-B. The whitetail's diet, their highest preference is actually woody browse. Then we move on to forbs, soft mast, like blackberries, raspberries, grapes. They love grapes. Apples, that's classified as soft mast. And then you get down in legumes like soybeans. Actually, only 7% of their diet, is preferred as grasses. So
really?
We look at what their preferences are. No matter how much we study it, and it's researched pretty well.
Oh yeah,
but
for sure.
Never lose sight of the fact that the whitetail are still smarter than we are, guys.
They're exactly.
When you lose sight of that fact, you get a little. It happens with any job. You get a little proud of what you're doing. I hate to say it, but it affects me just as much as everything else. Start seeing a little success, and whitetail especially will throw you a curveball every now and then.
Yeah, that's what makes it exciting, isn't it?
It really is. You study their behavior. I've often said over the years, if you listen to an animal long enough, they'll tell you what they want. They will actually tell you what they want. I'm not against feeding. I feed a lot of deer out of a bag or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I look at what's called the carrying capacity of my range. the assortment of plants that there is out there, the acorns, and all of that, and try to get a handle on, the pressure that they're putting on it. Then we look at supplemental feeding. Food plots are classified as supplemental feeding, actually.
Right.
So we look at the range. Will they support this amount, that amount? And then another big problem we have here, and I'm sure you'll bear this out in your area, is that we got a lot of people in the woods now that are taking immature deer.
Oh, yeah, I seen it.
I hate to call them trigger happy, but I'm going to call them trigger happy. Taking out 2-year-olds, yearlings, never going to see the mature bucks if you don't let them mature.
We see a lot of that in the deer processing business.
Oh, I'm sure. So you've got that monster to fight, and then there's what's called a predator-prey balance, coyotes, so to speak.
Right.
My philosophy on that is a little different. A lot of the game managers, say down in Texas, they keep a balance between predators and prey and use that as a management tool to kind of manage their herd. I say take them all out. That's just me. That's just me. You're going to lose that buck or that good producing doe somewhere down the line. You can just plan on it. I'd rather manage from the outside in than the inside out, so to speak.
Good stuff.
But that's personal bias.
Good stuff right there, definitely.
Well, that's like I say, it depends on the area of the country you're in. I did work a lot down in Texas in the hill country, and the prevailing notion is use the predator-prey balance to help you manage your herd size and your range. I put it bluntly, I just soon spin them.
There you go.
Get them out of there.
Okay, talking about bedding and cover a little bit,
yes.
James. I own a farm down in eastern part of Kentucky, down in Leslie County, in Hyden, Kentucky, and it has a lot of kudzu vine on it.
Right.
And I was wondering if the deer can feed on kudzu. Because I know that every time I go down there, I see 2 or 3 doe deer coming out of that kudzu coming up the mountain. And also, where it grows over the bushes and things, they get under it. They can get underneath it for cover. And I was wondering if that's part of their food chain.
Well, Dave, that's actually a pretty good question. They will eat kudzu, but it's a very, very low choice. If you find them actually eating the kudzu, then it's time to take a look at your habitat, and you may want to look at supplemental feeding. Kudzu is not a high food preference for them. They might go for it for other reasons. Whitetail will actually kind of doctor themselves. Could be a secondary plant chemical they want in it. Kudzu is another one of those good news, bad news things. Is if you're farming, bad news is you've got plenty of kudzu. If you're deer hunting, the good news is you've got plenty of kudzu. But it makes great bedding and cover. And mainly the reason that you just asked a great question. You can actually determine the amount of bedding and cover to some extent that you need. Take a partner out with you, and you get behind that kudzu in a standing position, and you have that partner start walking away from you with cover and the bedding in front of you, and you gauge the distance till he can't see you anymore. And then you get in a crouching position and have him walk away from it and see how many yards he can get before you totally disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives you a real good indicator of how good your cover is. You can mark it down. Well, it's got 25 yards. I need more than 25 yards, or the deer need more than 25 yards. I'm going to add to this cover here till he's 100 yards away from me, or however much cover you want to establish there. But that's a very effective management tool. Get behind the kudzu from whatever direction, or from all directions actually, and just have your partner walk away from you till he can't see you anymore. And that's how effective the cover is. Whitetail are obviously very skittish. They're creatures of light. Stress is a big energy robber. We want to do everything we can to keep their stress levels down, to keep them producing. Your goal is help healthy deer. Healthy deer, to coin a phrase, healthy deer means bigger deer every time. So they're probably not munching on the kudzu unless there's nothing else for them. But on the other hand, it's great bedding and cover.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff, James. Would you like to stick around and talk to us some more after the break?
I'll talk to you till we lose the corn crop, fellas.
There we go. And we're going to take a quick commercial break here on Deerick Beeler Outdoors, and we will return right here in a moment. Do you have a lifted or customized truck? Well, if so, let me tell you about MidwesternTrucks.com. There you will find trucks for sale, apparel, accessories. You can get yourself one of those really cool hats we wear on the TV show. So be sure and check out MidwesternTrucks.com. That's MidwesternTrucks.com. Welcome back to Deerick Beeler Outdoors. If you're just joining us, we are joined by James David Clark, Certified Whitetail Manager. We've been talking about some very interesting stuff here, James, about managing your deer habitats and your deer herds and things.
Well, I appreciate that, and it's like I said earlier, it's about starting from the ground up. You don't have to assume everything you know is wrong, but we don't have to keep throwing things against the wall. If we start from the ground up and assess it from those limiting factors, then you've got a chance to recruit and retain deer. Plus few of your neighbors' deer, probably.
Right, yeah.
They've all got tolerance limits, and you want to make that habitat as tolerable as possible for them.
James, I'm going to ask you a thing about overpopulation of white-tailed deer. I know over in Indiana about 4 or 5 years ago, they were having problems around these little towns with herds of deer coming in and just literally taking over and walking out in the streets and things and stopping traffic and just herds and herds of them. And that's what happens when they run out of food.
Dave, that's exactly right. We have the same problem here. The whitetail population has just exploded, and I sure don't want to get the dog in the DNR, Game and Fish Commission, and all that. But it's really gotten to be a huge problem here, to the extent that I live not too far from. Y'all may know of the community of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, just south of Branson. They opened up a hunting season, bow hunting season in town last year. It got so bad. And that gets back to what I say, tolerable conditions, food quality. The sprawl has pressured them out of their habitats, and they're foraging wherever they can. A lot of people try to, and they think they're doing well by feeding them, and I've really not got a huge problem with that, other than the fact that once you set out the corn, once you set out the beans, you're responsible for that animal now, in my view. You got a responsibility when you set it out there. So keeping that in mind, I really don't have a good answer for you on that. I do wish they were Arkansas, my own home state, Oklahoma and Texas where I work. I do wish we could get at least some more doe tags.
I know I will look out my back door here sometimes, and I can see 5 and 6 little doe deer up on the hill.
Yes.
And they've been coming down. There's a pond up on the hill behind me, and they stay up in there around that water pond, and now they're bringing their babies down.
Well, that's exactly right. You get into buck and doe ratios, and I don't feel like 4-to-1 or even 5-to-1. 4 does to a buck or 5 does to a buck is really not out around. You have to factor in that over 15% of those does are going to drop twins. 7% of them, as a rule, are going to drop triplets. So things can get out of hand really quick. Can't feed them. You've got the increased chances of disease vectors like you're familiar with EHD, blue tongue. It's taken out a quarter of the herd here in this state over the last couple of years, and they're still not loosening up. Urban sprawl and
Yeah, we just running them out of their home. It's about the same way around here with black bears. They're moving in this country too because they simply run out of habitat.
That's exactly right. They run out of food quantity and food quality.
But I guess I'm one of the best deer keepers in the state of Kentucky because I've got an old farmhouse on my place down there in Leicester County. And somebody stole the doors off of it, and so the deer come in there and bed down in the house in the wintertime and also get up on the floor.
Oh, goodness.
They got it
real good care. I take real good care of my deer.
They got it made at Maggard's place.
Right.
I'm going to add that to my management portfolio right now.
Hey,
James. It's tolerance. Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about, people talk,
Yeah.
A lot of people just talk. What are some of the myths of white-tailed deer?
Oh, my goodness. One of the biggest ones is moon phases influencing deer behavior. Deer behavior, you're getting close there, but their growing season, the antler growing season, their fawning season, their behavior is actually influenced not by the moon phases, but by what we call photo period, day length, season changes, so to speak. The photo period sends a signal, actually signals them into their pituitary gland or their pineal gland in the bucks. It tells them when the growing season starts. It signals when to start putting on the fat for a partial hibernation in the winter. It signals the doe's estrus cycles. When they start cycling, it signals the rut. So I hear what we call anecdotal evidence. There's guys that hunt by the moon phases, but there's no other than just he said or this is the way I've always done it. There's no real evidence that that's a determining factor. It's
right.
Photo period. It's day length. We just had one here last week, June 21st. Opens up more or less. They've been in velvet for a while, but this last photo period, June 21st, sends a signal to them that it's time to start pushing bone. It starts pouring on the bone. In the does, it signals heavy lactation because they're in fawning right now. The other one has to do with feed, and it's I hear it all the time. Well, I put out corn. Well, you putting out anything else? No, my bucks and my deer are doing great on corn. Well, they're probably doing all right if they have adequate access to woody browse and forage. However, if I ever want to drive a point home to your listeners, guys, this is it. Corn, whole corn, is roughly 5 to 6% crude protein and 82% starch, which is energy. It lowers rumen pH, depresses appetite, and you eventually end up with either lame deer or another subclinical issue. Now, as long as they've got access, their habitat's halfway straight up in forage and woody browse, you're probably not going to see a problem. But if you're just throwing corn out there, you're not helping yourself at all. That's a huge myth right there. They do like it. It's just like you and I, and Deerick, it's just like you and I and Dave sit down every meal to a meal of biscuits and gravy.
Right.
After a while, it's going to turn on us.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we need to balance that out. There's too wild a swing between the protein and the starch. I go into detail on it, but I won't. The starch converts to a sugar, a non-structural carbohydrate. People, like they do, they want to kind of argue with you. Well, my deer are doing good. And I always say, well, good is the enemy of great.
Right.
You want a trophy deer. And every hand, in the class I teach, every hand will go up. And I'll let the hands go down. And I'll say, do you want a trophy or do you want a record?
That makes sense.
Well, sure. Do you want a trophy? Every hand will go up in the room. I mean, to a person. But then I give a little pause and I say, now, do you want a trophy or do you want a record? I see them everywhere from the free range setting. 160 class deer is pretty, be a trophy deer around here in free range. Let's buck him up there to that 150, 160 class. See if we can safely, legally, and ethically put some mass, put some body condition on them.
Yeah, produce bigger
Take
deer.
care of their health. Yeah. If you protect the deer's health, they're going to grow their genetic potential. Even on deer farms, I work several deer farms with breeder stock, and we go through this constantly. I can't feed past genetics, but I can get to genetic potential safely, legally, and ethically. And that pretty much sums up what I do right there.
Yeah, exactly. It does. That's for sure. That's really good stuff there. And David, we're going to grab a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with more of James David Clark. Well, welcome everybody back into the program. We are joined today on Deerick Beeler Outdoors by James David Clark, certified whitetail manager. Tell us, James, what can you do for a landowner to produce a more healthy fawn?
Well, the first thing you do, guys, is I want to take a look at the aerial maps. It can be Google Maps, or you can go to your county assessor's office, get a topographical map, a satellite photo. We want to take a look at how it lays, and we want to look at those limiting factors. You may have, let's just call out a number, 200 acres to work with, but we don't want to be off in every corner of that. We want to look for those limiting, what we're limited by. We want to look at bedding, cover, the grade of the way the land lays, where the water is, and find the places. If you find those places, that's where you're going to find your deer recruited to. So first we're going to take a look at that before I even walk out on the place. Then we're going to set up, and I'm going to go take a look at it with the landowner. Look at the plants out there, the woody browse, the forbs, game cam picks if he's got any. Hopefully there's a few. We're going to look at the pressure, the carrying capacity of that range. And from that, we know that an adult deer eats roughly, we're going to call it 5.5 pounds per head per day. That's a pretty solid number.
Very solid number, yes.
Yeah, that's pretty much dead on the money right there.
Exactly.
And we're going to see what acreage he's got, and where we're going to fit those limiting factors, and how many deer that will support, and keep them all healthy, keep the energy levels up. You heard me speak of protein earlier. Protein is not a limiting factor in free-range deer. You don't have to go out and buy a lot of protein. We look for energy. Whitetails store mineral in their skeleton. They're called obligatory mineral depositors. During the growing season, the bucks use that mineral it comes up into the antlers. I'm trying to picture this for you. I want energy. I want those carbohydrates. They're getting plenty of digestible protein, or should be if the carrying capacity is okay. I want energy and mineral to intersect, mostly the calcium, and I want to push right in there. So I want to go out and look at the range, check the woody browse, check the forbs, the broadleaf weeds. A lot of times we're spraying, we end up taking out half their food supply by spraying. I'm not saying it's a bad idea to spray. I'm saying we need to be more selective in what we're taking out. In other words, if you're spending money on high-dollar beans and you want to give them a shot, well, you need to take out some of those broadleaf weeds. But you're working within your own resources, your own limiting factors. Now, most generally, I plant all kinds of soybeans. Won't name names, but usually I usually recommend just a variety called Laredo. They're hay beans, and they do well interspersed in there. We look at the carrying capacity of the range and what we need to do to fix it, whether it be hinge cutting, planting native grasses and trees. We soil test everything. Your local extension service will help you with that, and kind of take things from there.
James, we would really like to thank you for being on our show today, and I'm going to, as the executive producer of the Deerick Beeler Outdoors Show, give you an invitation to come by and be on our show sometime, anytime you're around the Clinton, Rocky Top, Tennessee area. If you happen to be up in here, let us know, and we will put you on the show.
I love that. I've really enjoyed it, guys. I appreciate the invitation.
We definitely appreciate tremendously having you on with lots of great information that people that folks can use, and maybe we've helped somebody with figuring out their situation on their property there.
I certainly hope so.
All right. I want to mention our sponsors once again, MidwesternTrucks.com. Be sure to check those guys out. Grab yourself one of those cool hats we wear on the TV show. Rocky Top Outdoors, down here in Rocky Top, Tennessee, and the Old Peddler Shop where our front porch for the TV show was located. Definitely check out our sponsors, support them, and we thank them tremendously for supporting us. For Dave Maggard, Andrew Murphy, Daryl Beeler, Andrew Howard, Patty Elrod, and Keith Driver, I'm Deerick Beeler. Thanks for listening to Deerick Beeler Outdoors.
Deerick Beeler, Outdoors.